Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
Crime drama this hour, and the crime drama, of course, begins with Dane Clark in Crime and Peter Chambers. This episode, entitled The Hot Spot, was originally broadcast on August 31st, 1954.
Crime and Peter Chambers. Created by Henry Kane, transcribed and starring as Peter Chambers, Dane Clark.
You're a private eye. That's your business. Anything else? That's for laughs. You're not an early go-to-bedder, but this night, for a change, you've hit the sack fairly early. You've turned, you've twisted, you've beaten at the pillow, and finally you're firmly entwined with the first of your usual tortured nightmares when... Huh? Yeah, this is Peter Chambers. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, all right already. What is it? A Mustang? Oh. Okay, I'll be there. Yeah. I'll get dressed and I'll be there as quickly as possible. Goodbye. Your midnight telephone caller is Miss Claire Connolly, press agent for a nightclub with the unusual name of the Hot Spot. She worried about a small event that took place there maybe a half hour ago, a little thing called murder. Seems that the main attraction at the club, a band leader by name Johnny Silver, probably the most fabulously successful band leader in America, caught up with a slight but deadly dose of lead poisoning. You throw on some clothes and you hot-footed to the hot spot. Claire Connolly is waiting for you outside.
First thing I want you to do, Pete, I want you to look the joint over, just so you know what the setup is.
It should have been looked over plenty by now. Don't you have cops?
Cops? The place is stinking with cops.
She leads you in, and you do what she asks you to do. You look. The hot spot on 54th and 5th, the joint that's really jumping, owned by an ex-gangster named George Black, who doesn't have to gangster anymore for a living. This hot spot is doing better legitimately than he can ever do illegitimately. Seems the excitement is over and the suckers are back eating and drinking and having a good time. Clara takes you up to the office and there's nobody there except you and Clara.
Now you've seen the joint.
I've seen it before, honey.
I wanted you to get a good look at the layout.
Like I said, I've seen it before. Dim lighting, a lot of atmosphere, bandstand for Johnny Silver's orchestra, and then the stage for Rita Dupre's dancing group, and then the customers seated around little tables, and upstairs a balcony running all around the joint.
That's where he got it from, the balcony.
Oh? How, what, and when?
Maybe a half, 3/4 of an hour ago. Johnny Silver's on stage with his band, doing his latest composition, talking back to the blues. Suddenly there's a shot from the balcony, and Johnny keels over, dead.
And the gun?
It was flung down from the balcony. Nobody touched it.
Where is it now?
The cops have it.
And who, perchance, was on the balcony?
No customers, if that's what you mean. This has been a comparatively quiet night. George Black seats nobody up here, not unless the downstairs is overcrowded.
Now, let me see. He gets it from upstairs here, from the balcony. No customers. So it figures for an inside job. Yeah, it's pretty good for this hour of the night, huh?
Good enough, since it's exactly what the police say.
Who's in charge of the shindig?
An old friend of yours, and a good friend of yours, Detective Lieutenant Louis Parker.
Oh, the best, honey. Absolutely the best. And, now, my sweet, why me?
I beg your pardon?
Well, why pull me out of bed unless it's sort of to save your own skin?
We've been friends, Pete. We were very good friends a long time ago.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. Now, we're friends.
Well, it's been established that he was killed by George Black's gun, for which George has a license, of course. The gun was kept in an open drawer, right here upstairs in this office. And I can come and go here as I please.
So, that makes you a suspect?
Not entirely. But I know that I was heard to threaten him.
Whom?
Johnny Silver.
When?
Last night.
Where?
Right here, in this office.
By whom?
By Rita Dupre.
Well, let's hear about that.
There's not much to hear. I found out that Johnny'd been doing a terrible thing.
To?
Eddie Gale.
Eddie Gale. Oh, used to be a drummer with Johnny's band. He's a ranger. And then he retired, no?
Yeah. Eddie's always here at the hot spot. He's here tonight. Anyway, when I found out what Johnny'd been doing to Eddie, I talked to him. To Johnny, here in his office. I'm Johnny's press agent, too. Anyway, the upshot of it was an argument. Johnny fired me.
Oh?
But that wasn't all. Suddenly, he made a pass at me. We struggled, and I remember my saying, "You ought to be killed. Somebody ought to kill you. Maybe I ought to do it myself."
Well, those are threats, all right. Hey, I'm a real smart detective tonight.
Well, in the heat of excitement, people say things like that without meaning them.
Ain't it the truth?
Anyway, Rita Dupre walked in just then, dressed as usual in that sultry dancing costume of hers. She heard me.
So?
So she'll give the cops an earful, no question.
Well, why? I thought you two were friends.
Not anymore. Not when she saw me tussling with Johnny.
Oh, you mean that Rita Dupre and Johnny Silver... Well, I thought that was a press agent's concoction.
It was. But she began to believe in notices.
Happens.
It's a real cockeyed setup. George Black brought her here from the West Coast because he's nuts about her. He tells me to play up a phony romance between Johnny and Rita for the newspapers. She really starts going for Johnny. And George starts to do a slow burn. And then Johnny suddenly starts going for me. A real merry-go-round.
And a deadly one.
But I didn't kill him, Pete. Believe me.
Well, what about that Eddie Gale deal? What did he tell you? But right there, you get an interruption. An interruption in tandem. George Black and Detective Lieutenant Louis Parker.
Well, Petey Chambers.
Hi, Louis.
I'll go to my grave and you'll pop up, huh? What are you doing here, Pete?
Business, formal retainer by Miss Claire Connolly, services to be rendered.
She may need those services. I'd like to talk with you, Miss Connolly. Outside, please.
Certainly, Lieutenant.
So you're left alone with George Black. George Black. Big, powerful, and slightly sinister.
Well, as long as you're here, pal, you can work for me, too.
Like how?
Like so. Here you are, pal. I'll take $500 worth of your services.
Oh. And the nature of such services, pal?
Keeping me out of the jam jar.
How far are you in the jam jar?
Look, my gun killed him. Everybody around here knows I hated his guts.
'Cause why, Daddy-O?
Because I don't like nobody fiddling with my girl.
Rita Dupre?
Who else?
Everybody always blames a guy rather than a gal.
I get this straight, I don't care about everybody, I care about me. I'm stuck on Rita, so I can't blame her. But that Johnny Silver, I warned him to lay off. It's like telling a fly to lay off molasses.
Oh, excuse me.
Rita, baby, come on in. Come on in, sweetie.
Rita Dupre. Nobody's been stacked like that since Cleopatra. Black hair, black eyes, a patrician nose, glistening red lips, and a costume, wow-wee. It's her dance costume. Red gloves to the elbows, red silk stockings to the hips, and the rest of it all red sequins and briefer than a shrunken bikini.
Beautiful, ain't she?
Yeah. She always walk around like this in the costume?
Yes, I do. It's crazy to keep changing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
My dance group goes on 8 times during the evening.
Rita Dupre. Here's Peter Chambers.
Oh, don't bother, George. We're well acquainted.
Oh?
Now, don't start with that jealousy jiggle. I knew her from way back, before she went to the West Coast, before she even met you.
That's true. We've been acquainted for much time.
George Black.
Yeah.
Come on out here. My boys are back from the lab. I want to talk to you about the gun.
Okay, Lieutenant. Okay.
And so, as must happen sooner or later, you and I are alone again.
With me, my love, you can drop that phony French accent.
So,
I knew you when you were Rita Duberman and you were living in the Bronx.
I am Rita Dupre, and I was born in Paris.
You are Rita Duberman, you were born in the Bronx.
I'm a French danseuse.
And you're death on wheels to all men, you think. Except I got a hunch to Johnny Silver, who in turn was death on wheels to all women.
The beast.
You can't take it, huh? You know, you had a reputation that way. Thin-skinned and deadly when you're riled up. You can dish it out, but you can't take it. What's the matter? Johnny boy push you around?
I know what you're trying to do, but you're not going to trap me, not me. I did not kill him. Ask about that Claire, how she threatened him.
I know all about that.
So do not try to get funny with me. If so, I speak to Georges, and then they find you in the river and you're wearing a cement zoot suit.
Zoot suits are old-fashioned, Rita.
Georges Black. He is an old-fashioned man.
Well, there you go. From August 31st, 1954, Crime and Plea, Peter Chambers here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
You ever make a change and then think, why didn't I do this years ago? Well, that's how people feel about switching to Medishare for their health care, especially now with inflation the way it is. People are very happy with the savings. Most families save about $500 a month when they switch. It's a huge help when prices are going up so fast in so many other areas. And Medishare's customer satisfaction rate is double that of health insurance. It's just a different experience, and people really like that. Medishare is an alternative to health insurance. It's a community of Christians who share each other's healthcare bills, and it's been going strong for over 25 years. It really is the gold standard, the most trusted name in healthcare sharing. Find out why people love it, find out why they rave about the customer service, and find out how good it feels to save some money right now. They're super easy to talk to. Here's the number, 833-34-BIBLE. That's 833-34-BIBLE, 833-34-BIBLE.
Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, more of Dane Clark in Crime and Peter Chambers, August 31st, 1954.
Then you and Parker are sitting in a secluded spot listening to the strains of Johnny Silver's music, without the benefit of Johnny Silver, and lapping up some of George Black's scotch on the house.
Well, the minute after he was shot, practically simultaneously, the gun was thrown from the balcony. One of the waiters saw it coming down. He stood guard over it. Nobody touched it till we arrived.
Now, let me get the picture, Louis. Johnny Silver is on the bandstand playing his dreamy music.
Right.
He gets shot from the balcony, one shot, and he's dead.
Sure.
Then immediately the gun is flung down, George Black's gun, and a waiter stands guard over it until the cops come.
Very good, Junior. You may take 2 giant steps, huh?
Fingerprints on the gun, Louis?
Nothing. Not a one. Clean as a whistle.
And your suspects?
No customers on the balcony. Strictly an inside job. And only 4 people had any interest in Johnny Silver.
George, Rita, Claire...
And Eddie Gale.
Yeah, Eddie Gale.
And Pete, guess what's the word on him?
I give up.
Only yesterday, right in this joint. I got this from 2 different waiters.
Got what?
He was heard to say about Johnny Silver, I'm going to get that bum. I'm going to get him good. That's what he was heard to say.
Are you sure you don't want to drink, Louis?
No, thanks, Pete. Now while I'm working. That's what he said. I'm going to get that bum. I'm going to get him good.
Did he have access to George Black's gun?
Oh, they all had access. He kept it in his office in a desk drawer. Drawer was open.
Well, did you question him, this Eddie Gale?
He's a tough nut to handle. Nervous little guy. He's always half-loaded. Clammed with me. Stayed clammed.
You mind if I try?
I wish you would. This one time I really wish you would. You know these musician types better than I do.
Is he around?
Yeah, sure. See over there.
Where?
Corner table there. Little Eddie Gale. Looking like a lost soul.
You meander over and you pull up a chair.
Hi, Shamus. It's a pleasure to have some pleasurable company. You I like. Hey, waiter. Drink for my friend here. A couple of drinks for my friend. And a couple of drinks for my friend's friend. That's me.
Eddie Gale, neatly dressed in sharp clothes, his shirt collar long and billowy. Eddie Gale, pale as death, his small wolf smile infinitely sad. Eddie Gale, small, slender, and tense. You get the feeling you're near a high explosive with the fuse going fast.
Well, he finally got it, Johnny Silver. Brother, am I glad.
Look, they're pointing the finger at you, pal.
Yeah? Who's pointing a finger at me?
Cops.
Johnny's knockoff?
Well, he got it from George Black's gun.
Oh, that's George Black's headache.
No. Guy wouldn't use his own gun.
Yeah, sure he would if he wanted to as a cover-up. Then he says somebody clipped it out of his desk drawer. That drawer was always open. So was the door to his office.
You see what I mean?
See what you mean? No, I don't get you.
Well, you knew where the gun was. You knew the office door was open and the desk drawer.
Yeah, but...
You knew your way around this club so you can get up to the balcony, plus...
Plus what?
Plus, the cops have a report that only yesterday you said, I'm going to get that bum, and I'm going to get him good.
And now, wait a minute. I was going to shoot lawyers at that bum, not bullets.
Well, for what? Claire mentioned some beef you had against him, but she didn't say what. Is it, because he fired you out of the band? Well, that shouldn't be much. Any band would be glad to grab you. You're a great drummer and a great arranger.
Yeah, thanks. It ain't that.
Well, you haven't been working.
That's only because I don't want to work. I don't need to, see? I got plenty of scratch, Dad.
And what's the beef against Johnny Silver?
That bum was a crook.
What'd he steal?
You know them songs Johnny's been writing? Talking back to the blues, all of them. Johnny Silver, the great new Gershwin, the new Porter, the new Irving Berlin.
Yeah.
I wrote them.
You wrote them?
Me, I wrote them, every blessed tune.
You're kidding.
Hope to die, Dad. Well, he was a funny kind of crook. Sweet Johnny Silver. He stole my soul, that's what he done. But he give me half the scratch.
Now, wait a minute. Do that a little slower, Eddie.
Oh, once when I was with the band, see, I wrote a song, and he thought it was great. Look, he says. Look, Eddie boy, he says. It's great, it's groovy, it's got schmaltz. But you gotta have weight to throw around in the music publishing world. Then I got the weight, Eddie boy.
Meaning?
Meaning he had a friend. Sam August. You know, August Records, August Sheet Music.
Yeah, I know.
Well, anyways, he brings the song to Sam August. Says he wrote it. He, Johnny Silver, and Sam publishes. That's how the whole deal started.
All his songs? You mean all the Johnny Silver compositions?
Every blessed one of them. Oh, give me half the profits right in the button, but after a while, that's no good. And the money doesn't cover it. If you got pride, if you got a soul pushing inside of you, well, you begin to crack up.
I guess so. A person needs recognition.
That's it, Dad. Recognition. That's a word, Dad. What did I get? Bubkiss. That's what I got. Money. Well, after a while, you begin to get sick. So, yesterday we had a showdown. I wanted, you know what you said, full credit recognition. You know what he told me?
No.
That's just what he said, no. Plus, he said that if I gave him the gate, he'd see to it that I'd never have a song published in this here town. He said I was getting half the loot, so what was I squawking about?
Is that when you threatened him?
Yeah, but with fireworks, not firearms. Lawyers, not bullets. Well, that's my story, Shamus. Me, a wise guy. All of a sudden, I'm a little babe in the woods.
You told all this to Clara?
Sure, I told her, and she went to bat for me. So what does he do? He fires her as a press agent. Then he makes a pass at her. He was getting sick and tired of Rita Dupre. Let me tell you something. That guy was a big nut in that dirty...
Meanwhile, Parker's working hard, and he's beginning to steam like a cauldron. He puts them over the grill, one after another, until they're sizzling. Rita Dupre.
I did not kill him. Yes, I will admit to a bad temper. I will admit to jealousy. I will admit that he was finished with me, that I was clinging. But I did not kill him.
George Black.
Yeah, it was my gun. Sure, I was plenty sore at that rat. Maybe I would have come around to putting the boots to the guy, but I didn't come around to it, Lieutenant. Somebody did me the favor first. Nobody fiddles around with a chick that belongs to George Black.
Claire Connolly.
Yeah, I threatened him. I said the words, but I didn't mean them literally. That's what I said. I said, somebody ought to kill you, and maybe I ought to do it myself. But I was excited. They were just words. Words.
And Eddie Gale.
Yeah, Dad, I threatened him, but it was fireworks I was going to throw at him, not firearms. Lawyers, court proceedings, attachments, garnishes. You know what I mean, Dad, the works.
Parker's barbecue breaks up and everybody scatters, and when you finally wander into George's office, Rita Dupre is there, seated, gorgeous in her lovely costume, her long legs up on the desk.
If you think you're going to talk to me, talk fast. I'm resting my legs.
So I see.
Our last show is going on right away.
Your last show has gone on.
What kind of a crack is that?
No crack, sister, except that you murdered a guy.
Trying to trap me again, are you? You will not succeed.
You trapped yourself, sister. The lieutenant's been a little busy, but as soon as he simmers down, it'll hit him just like it hit me, and then boffo. You're in the can.
And just what hit you?
4 people had a finger on Johnny Silver. You, Eddie Gale, George Black, and Claire Connolly.
The conclusion of Crime and Peter Chambers and the conclusion of a Yours Truly Johnny Dollar story comes up next on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
Whether you're taking your pets on the road or a walk around the block, you need to be aware of heat stroke. Hi, I am Dr. Jose Arce, immediate past president of the American Veterinary Medical Association. It's important that pets get out and enjoy the warm weather and fresh air, but here are some reminders to help keep your pets safe in the heat. Tune into the day's forecast to see how hot it will be. Limit exercise on hot days or schedule walks earlier or later on the day when it's cooler. If outside, stay on the grass instead of the hot pavement. Make sure your pet has unlimited fresh water and access to shade. Never leave your pet in a closed vehicle, and leave your pet at home in air conditioning when you go out. If you see signs of heat strokes in your pet, such as excessive panting, drooling, unsteadiness, or abnormal gum and tongue color, call your veterinarian or nearest emergency clinic. For more info on summer pet safety, visit avma.org. That's avma.org.
Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, the conclusion of Crime and Peter Chambers as it was originally broadcast August 31st, 1954.
You, because you hated the guy. He made a punk out of you, tossed you aside like the proverbial dish rag.
Shut up!
4 suspects, but no fingerprints on the gun. And it landed downstairs practically simultaneously with the shooting. Nobody had time to wipe that gun. That's conclusive. Not one single fingerprint. You want to know why?
I think I know why.
You bet your boots you do, because one of the suspects was wearing gloves all the time. It's part of her costume.
Okay. That's all for you, fella.
George Black has slipped in, and Georgie's wearing a gun in his fist. A nasty-looking little automatic.
All right, Shamus. You done your bit. You're through.
Did you know she killed him, George?
I don't know it yet. Did you, baby?
Yes, I killed him.
Why?
Because I loved him. Because he pushed me around. Because he laughed at me. Because when I pleaded with him, he spat at me. He spat in my face.
Honey, your French accent's slipping.
Shut up, Shamus. Rita, baby, come here. Now, don't you worry about Sherlock here. Don't worry about nobody, see? I'll get you out of this, you and I. There's Cuba, South America. I got contacts, baby, the biggest and the best.
But you got no brains, Georgie. Porgy would make you an accessory. You two would be on the lam for the rest of your lives.
He's right, George.
Rita, come here. Where are you going?
I want to be honest for once in my life. I don't love you, George. I want you to know that.
Look, baby, I know everything. You leave that to me, honey. As long as you like me, just as long as you like me a little bit, that's all.
Well, you're sweet, George, but I can't do this to you.
If you're going to do it, this is the time. When they start making with the romance talk, they're off guard, so you jump. He missed you, and Rita's down on the floor. And by the time Parker and his boys pile in, Rita's dead. George is standing over her, blubbering. And then it's over, and Parker's talking to you.
That's funny how things work out. She gets it quick and sure instead of waiting for a trial, then getting it from the state anyway. George Black, we've been trying to pin a rap on him for a long time. Now he's pinned the rap on himself. Legal doubleheader. Funny how things work out.
Yeah, Louie, it's funny. It's hilarious. You can just die laughing.
And there you've had Crime and Peter Chambers. Dane Clark was starred as Peter Chambers. Crime and Peter Chambers, transcribed, was created and written by Henry Kane. Others in the cast were Bill Zuckert, heard as Lieutenant Parker, Rita Lynn as Claire, and Donald Buca as Eddie. It was directed by Fred Way. And this is Fred Collins inviting you to tune in next week, same time, same station, for Dane Clark in Crime and Peter Chambers.
August 31st, 1954. Crime and Peter Chambers on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, as Bob Bailey says it, the wind-up. Part 6 of the 6-part Yours Truly Johnny Dollar story, The Kranesburg Matter. This originally broadcast August 31st, 1956.
From Hollywood, it's time now for
Johnny Dollar.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Phineas Crane.
How are you, Mr. Crane?
Highly perturbed, sir.
Now, what's bothering you?
My generation used to call it conscience. I want to talk to you, Mr. Dollar.
Well, that's quite a change, isn't it, from your attitude last night?
There have been a number of changes since last night. I can't bear the thought of that girl being imprisoned.
She doesn't like it too much herself. All right, what's on your mind?
I'd prefer not to discuss it over the telephone.
Then you'll have to hold your horses. I'm waiting here for a call from Hartford and some information from the police.
It might be the same information I'm ready to give you, sir.
I don't think so. You should have talked last night, Mr. Crane. I might have been willing then to make a deal of some kind.
And now?
No deal. I can guess what happened to the necklace. And as far as the rest of it's concerned, I never make deals on murder.
Tonight and every weekday night, Bob Bailey in the transcribed adventures of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. From Special Investigator Johnny Dollar, location Kranesburg, Ohio. To the Home Office, Tri-State Guarantee Company, Hartford, Connecticut. Assignment, the Kranesburg Matter. Expense account, final page. Item 13, $28.65. Phone calls to Cincinnati and Cleveland, and 2 prepaid calls to Hartford. The wheels were spinning now, and I spent most of the day just sitting back and waiting. Toward late afternoon, Police Chief Ed Durham phoned, then Hartford, and then Durham again. And finally, the 3 black bars dropped into place, and the payoff was jackpot. Item 14, $10.50, second day's rental on hired car. I left the hotel just before dark and drove out through the north edge of town to the Crane estate. When I'd gone out there the day before, I'd been mostly guessing, playing hunches. But this time, I knew pretty much what I wanted and just how to go about getting it. I thought the place deserted as I walked up the long arbor from the carriage house. But as I stepped out onto the terrace, I realized I was wrong.
Mr. Dollar, over here.
In here, please. Hurry.
Why all the secrecy, Mr. Crane?
I wanted to talk to you alone. I rather doubted whether I would be able to if it were known that you were here.
Able to or permitted to?
Well, that's what I meant, sir. Permitted.
Who would stop you, Mr. Crane?
Well, that, you might say, is part of the story. A story I didn't tell you last night.
Why not? Why didn't you tell me?
I still thought then I might be able to save things.
And you don't think so now?
I'm afraid not. It's too late. You know too much about it now.
What were you doing in Smiley Prowl's room when I found you last night?
Looking for the necklace. I told you that.
Did you know then he'd been murdered?
Oh, no. I wouldn't have had the nerve to go there if I had. And there wouldn't be of any use of going. That's when I realized it was all over, when I heard Mr. Prell had been killed. Dishonesty is one thing, but murder is something else again.
You're so right.
Of course, it wasn't dishonest at first. It was all quite legal in the beginning.
But not later.
No, not later. I was against that. Not that I'm claiming any virtue for it. Probably it was just cowardice. Mr. Dollar, be as easy on her as you can.
I'm afraid it won't be in my hands.
I suppose not. These things are always done so impersonally by institutions created for that purpose. Rightfully, no doubt. But one occasionally wonders.
There's something I wonder about sometimes, Mr. Crane.
You refer to?
Human greed.
That's true. There's no real excuse for us, my niece and me. Reasons, yes. An inherited social position and way of life. And declining wealth to support them. We're soft people, Mr. Dollar. And when life gets hard, we look for a soft way out.
And that usually turns out to be the hard way.
She'll find it so, I imagine. For me, it doesn't really matter anymore.
How did you get onto Smiley Prell? How did you know he was the one who robbed your safe?
Well, I was just guessing. Until you told me yesterday that he was a professional jewel thief. And that he'd phoned the insurance company and claimed to have the necklace.
But before that, when you were guessing, how did you know about him? What reason did you have to guess?
I'd seen him hanging around the estate here twice, the week before the robbery and when I saw him again afterward. Talking to his, contact, I guess you'd call it.
His employer fits the facts better.
I suppose so. Anyway, I put two and two together and I followed Prell. I found out where he lived.
Did the employer know you'd done this?
Oh, no, hardly. Or I doubt that I'd be sitting here talking to you. Oh, not that it matters, since you probably know more of the details than I do.
All right, Uncle Phineas. That's quite enough.
Melba.
That was a very quiet entrance, Miss Crane.
It wasn't intentional. I didn't know you were here until I heard voices. Uncle Phineas, would you mind leaving us alone?
It's too late, my dear. I think time is about to run out on all of us.
Aided a great deal, I presume, by some of your more senile imaginings.
Mr. Dollar didn't really need any help.
Please.
Very well, my dear. I leave the two of you, then, to what I anticipate may be rather stormy.
What were you doing? Pumping him? Trying to make him say things you could twist later and use against him?
No, it was more a matter of humoring him, I'd say. What's the matter, Melba? Hangover from last night?
I suppose you told him that, too. That I came to your hotel to see you.
No, didn't seem relevant somehow.
I see.
Where's your fiance?
Dean?
Sure. How many have you got?
Mr. Sellers is in the billiard room. Why? What do you want with him?
Oh, I need just a few more facts to fill out the picture. I think he can supply them, that's all.
What facts? Why have you come here?
Uncle Phineas invited me.
What for?
He said something about wanting to clear his conscience.
His mind wanders. You know that. You can't rely on anything he says.
I'm not.
What about the girl they arrested?
Your maid, Betty?
Yes, Betty. If the police are satisfied she's guilty, why aren't you?
Because I was hired to find a pearl necklace that was stolen from your safe. It was insured for $20,000, remember? And I haven't found it yet.
Suppose I were to withdraw the insurance claim.
It's a little too late. The police would want to know why.
Why? Simply because I choose to. Because I don't want any more fuss about it. It's not a loss, actually. The necklace was a gift.
Oh, yes, I know. An engagement present of great sentimental value from that wealthy young philanderer, Mr. Dean Sellers, who incidentally is broker than you are.
What?
Yep. Got a complete rundown on him from Hartford late this afternoon.
I don't believe it.
It's quite a shock, I imagine.
You'd say anything just to help that girl get out of jail.
Now, you got me mixed up with Sellers, haven't you? He's the one who rallied to her defense.
A cheap little flirt. I hope they convict her.
Do you really believe she's the reason Sellers broke off your engagement?
It wasn't broken off. It was only postponed.
Well, it's like I said, Melba. A lot of surprises. By the way, I'd like to search Betty's room, if you don't mind. That's actually why I came out here.
What for?
That necklace. I was hired to recover it, remember?
But if you think she's innocent, then why do you bother?
How do you know what I think? I haven't really said, have I?
No. That's true. That's quite true.
Lucky shot, Mr. Dollar. You got 2 on the break.
Yeah. Result of a misspent youth. All right. 4 ball in the corner pocket.
Expert, huh?
Oh, just lucky, like you said. Oh, by the way, Mr. Sellers, you were right about Betty. She isn't guilty. She was being framed.
I told you so.
Yeah, she was just an innocent bystander, you might say. Even though I did find the necklace a few minutes ago, hidden in her room.
You found it? Good.
The Cranes, though, aren't quite so innocent.
The Cranes?
No. 9 ball on the far side pocket.
What do you mean about the Cranes?
They were broke, and they needed money to keep up a front. When you came to town and showed an interest in Melba, they figured you were the answer.
Why, you're making Melba sound pretty cold-blooded, you know.
Oh, there was no love lost. You were playing the same game.
Huh?
Sure, Sellers. That's the way you've always operated. Your last wife was a wealthy widow in Miami, Florida. You stayed with her for 1.5 years and took her for $150,000. And all that was left of it when you came here was the $20,000 you had invested in the pearl necklace. That was your stake, and that's the way you used it, to convince Melba Crane you weren't a fortune hunter. 12 ball in the far corner.
Dollar, where did you get all this information?
Police records. Then about a month ago, you broke off your engagement with Melba Crane. Why?
Because I was in love with Betty.
You were playing Betty for a pigeon. You backed out because you'd finally discovered that the Cranes were flat broke.
I wasn't after Melba's money.
Sure you were. But you wanted to get out without losing your investment, that necklace. So you brought in Smiley Prell to steal it for you.
I never saw Prell in my life.
Uncle Phineas saw the two of you together a couple of days after the robbery.
Well, he's lying.
So Prell pulled the robbery. And then he told you the pearls he'd stolen were phony. You accused him of double-crossing you. He thought you were double-crossing him. Net result, he got sore and tried for a deal with the insurance company. That's why you killed him.
Are you accusing me of murder?
That's right, Sellers. 8 ball in the end pocket. Who else, Sellers? Betty wasn't in it, except that you tried to frame her. And both the Cranes knew the pearls were imitation. You were the only one who didn't.
They weren't imitations. I paid $20,000 for that necklace.
Not for this one. Melba sold the necklace a month after you gave it to her. They've been living on the money. She had this copy made in Cincinnati.
Why, that cheap little crook.
So the pearls you killed Smiley for and then planted upstairs in Betty's room are worth about $200 at the most. Something to think about, isn't it?
That's right, Dollar. And so is this.
That's a losing game, too, Sellers.
It will be for you if you try to make a move.
Shoot it out with the police? Is that your answer?
If it comes to that. At least I know how to use a gun. Smiley Prell could tell you.
Did you steal this one from Uncle Phineas, too?
Oh, no. This one's my own. Now put down that pool cue and get your hands up. Slow and easy. When I go out of here...
Dean, what are you doing with that?
Thanks, Melba.
What have you done, Mr. Dollar?
Nothing. It's going to make him feel very happy for the next day or so. A pool cue makes a pretty handy weapon.
Why? What was he doing with that gun?
Surprise number 1. Your fiance is the lad who had your necklace stolen, and then later killed his partner.
Dean?
Oh, that's probably the chief of police. He was coming out to meet me. You want to let him in?
Murderer. And I was going to marry him.
Yeah, I guess murder is a lot worse than fraud.
What do you mean?
You filed an insurance claim on a necklace you'd already sold. I imagine the company will want to prosecute.
I didn't know what I was doing.
You sure didn't, anywhere along the line. You were marrying Dean Sellers for the money he didn't have. And at the same time, he was trying to marry you for the money you didn't have. Too bad it didn't work out. You two were made for each other. The police are getting impatient, Miss Crane. Expense account item 15, $186.25. Incidentals in Kranesburg and transportation back to Hartford. Expense account total $409.10. End of account, end of report. Under separate cover, I am forwarding one necklace consisting of 38 pearls, all imitation. Approximate value $200, along with my sincere condolences. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Now, here's our star to tell you about next week's story.
Next week, the curse of an ancient king and how it affected the lives and deaths of two people. Join us, won't you? Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, starring Bob Bailey, is transcribed in Hollywood. Written by Les Crutchfield, it is produced and directed by Jack Johnstone. Heard in this week's cast were Howard McNear, Forrest Lewis, Paul Richards, Mary Jane Croft, Virginia Gregg, James McCallion, Shirley Mitchell, and Russ Thorson. Musical supervision by Amerigo Marino. Be sure to join us on Monday night, same time and station, for another exciting story of yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Roy Rowan speaking.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, goes all the way back to 1949 with Charles Russell, Edmund O'Brien, and John Lund portraying Dollar from 49 to 54. In 1955, Bob Bailey came back with this episode, and I think that the quarter hours and the half hours that Bob Bailey did are the best ones of the series. And we found a comparison. 2 episodes based on the same storyline, and we did those up on our Wyatt's Favorite Radio podcast, where we do more analysis in the podcast, not on the air. But I will tell you that you might find it of interest. Search for Wyatt's Favorite Radio wherever you get your podcasts. Now, we want to remind you that these episodes this week were made possible by our friend Ted over at RadioMemories.com. He does shows and has a wide selection of shows available on compact disc, cassette tape, or flash drive for your computer. RadioMemories.com. Now, if you miss a day of our show, you do not have to miss a single episode. You can find all of our programs available at classicradio.stream. That is classicradio.stream. You can stream the shows on demand, learn more about classic radio collecting. You can contact me. You can find podcast links, and you can buy me a coffee. And you use the Buy Me a Coffee. That's what helps us acquire new classic radio collections from a variety of collectors. classicradio.stream. Thanks for making us a part of your day. Would you please thank this radio station and support their advertisers? And most importantly, tell your friends the great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite radio station.